Shabbat Shalom, Zion. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom to the whole house of Yasharal worldwide. Wherever you may be on this Yom, wherever your feet touch the soil. Shabbat Shalom to you. Shabbat Shalom. May the very Shalom of Yahuwah permeate your very being, permeate your homes, permeate the beings of your family, and permeate the beings of your close associates. May Yahuwah himself rest and abide in your dwellings. May Yahuwah himself rest and abide in your nefash on this Yom. Shabbat Shalom to you. Shabbat Shalom to the older brother, to Yahudah. Shabbat Shalom to the younger brother, to Ephraim. Shabbat Shalom to the former stranger, the former Ger, the former Goy, the former Goyim, the former Gentile, being a former Gentile, but no longer being a Gentile, but indeed now being engrafted into the house, the Bayif of Yasharal, whereby now being a fellow citizen, and whereby now being privy to the same covenants, the same promise, and the same inheritance that was given to Yasharal and to Yasharal alone. Shabbat Shalom to you worldwide on this Shabbat Yom. On this Shabbat Yom. Mishpaka, my Mishpaka, my Mishpaka. I have a Shabbat message. I have a Shabbat message for all of us that Yahuwah deposited into me many years ago, but he aroused my memory on just today as I was laying before him praying, Before I get into that message, let me preface that. Let me preface that with just a brief introduction, Zion, of who I am, First of all, I'm just a man. I'm just a hunk of dirt. I'm just an imperfect hunk of dirt. I'm like, a man, a potter, making a vessel to drink out of, or something to pour into. And it comes out imperfect. It comes out warped, misshaped, kind of disshaped, but yet he has a affection towards it anyway. And he uses it anyway. He still pours things into it, and he still uses it anyway. That's me, Zion. That's me. Just this imperfect piece of clay on Abino's potter's wheel. That although I am dirt, although I am dust, although I am imperfect and fallible in all my ways, he still deems me fit for use. He still deems me fit for use, even though I am nothing more than an imperfect hunk of dirt. So let me first just say that. I'm just a man. I'm just an imperfect hunk of dirt that he sees fit to use. Secondly, let me say this, Zion. Many think that, I'm some type of moray. I'm some type of teacher. I don't proclaim to be anything, Zion. I don't proclaim to be anything. Again, I'm just a vessel. I'm just a hunk of dirt that Yahuwah chooses to use, that he deems fit to use, that he has removed my dirty garments and he has replaced them with his clean garments. They are his garments. It is his righteousness that covers me. Yahuwah Zedekino. It is not mine. I have none. I have none of my own. None of my own. It is his righteousness, and they are his words. that are spoken through me. They're not my words. I'm nothing. I'm just a vessel. I'm just a man. I am incapable of even generating independent thought. My thoughts come from him. Indeed, either our thoughts come from above or they come from below. But as human beings, as dirt vessels, we are incapable of even generating independent thoughts. So they are his thoughts. They are his words. And so I carry no title. I don't carry a title. I just don't. I don't carry a title. Here's what I would tell you. Yahuwah called me to proclaim 10 years ago. He called me to proclaim. He called me to proclaim while I was still in the Christian Cersei. He called me to proclaim. Some call it an evangelist. Some call it a preacher. The proper word is proclaimer. It's proclaimer. He has called me to proclaim the Besorah. He has called me to proclaim. Now, can a proclaimer also teach? Absolutely. A proclaimer can also teach. But first and foremost, Yahuwah called me to proclaim. He called me to proclaim, and that's who I am. I am a proclaimer. Even so, I don't carry a title of proclaimer. It's just who I am. It's just the office that he has given me, and that is to proclaim. Again, can I also teach when proclaiming? Absolutely. But that too is just an office. It's not a title. I'm just dirt. I'm just dirt. I'm just a vessel. I'm just that warped vessel that Yahuwah pours understanding into, that Yahuwah pours Hakma into, that Yahuwah pours Binah into, and through this imperfect hunk of dirt, he speaks through. That's all I am. That's all I am. So with that brief disclaimer, with that brief preface, he has a message for Zion through this imperfect vessel. He has a message for Zion through this imperfect vessel on the Shabbat Yom. And that message it comes in the form of a question. And the question for you, Zion, on this day is, are you prepared to endure? Are you prepared to endure unto the end? Are you prepared? You see, I'm afraid, Zion, that we have been lulled to sleep. That we have been lulled to sleep by the many distractions of this world and by the many distractions of the wicked one. We have been distracted and lulled to sleep by many things that many of us are awake. We have awakened from Babylon. We have awakened from the lies. But I declare to you that even though we have awakened, that indeed there are still distractions amok. There are still distractions amok. There is no shortage of distractions that are being thrown and spewed our way to keep us, even though we are awake and out of Babylon, to keep us in a semi-state of sleep and to keep us distracted. Look no further than this gun debate that's going on, this whole gun debate that has many in Zion distracted, that has many in Zion distracted. And Yahuwah, by the way, has told me that our feeble weapons are not going to be enough to protect us from the things that are going to be unleashed upon the earth during the next season. They are not going to be enough. Yet you got people all up in arms and ready to fight over this false narrative of a gun debate, which is all about a distraction. It is a distraction because while they have our eyes focused on the gun debate, what are they doing behind us, Zion? What are they doing behind us? This is just one of many distractions. Many of us are enjoying, comfortable lives, still living within Babylon. We're still enjoying the comforts of home, running water, heat, and heat during the wintertime and cool air during the summertime. We're used to flushing toilets. We're used to clothes and shoes on our feet. We're used to our electronic devices, and we're used to going to our refrigerators when we're hungry. We're used to our bank accounts. We're going to our bank accounts or swiping our debit cards or swiping our credit cards. But what happens when these things are taken away from us? What happens when the rug is pulled from underneath us? What happens when the things that we have grown accustomed to, the comforts of life that we have grown accustomed to, because now strategically we can no longer grow our own food. We can no longer build our own homes. We can no longer grow our own animals and slaughter our own animals. We can no longer make our own clothes. What happens, Zion, when the proverbial rug it's snatched away from under us and we no longer have these things to depend on? What then will we do? What then will we do? Will we run to some scary wilderness where we have no wilderness survival? We don't know the first thing about wilderness survival. Or will we walk willingly into some FEMA death camp? What will we do, Zion? These are very relevant questions that need to be considered now rather than later. What will we do? Are you prepared to endure? Are you prepared to endure? Are you? Are you one of those who think that just because we are sons of Yaakov, that we're just going to be protected and that we will not be tested, that we will not have to endure? If that's your thought process, I remind you to a text that we're getting ready to read when Yahushua said, and those who endure unto the end shall be delivered. I remind you that he was talking to Yahudim, I remind you that our ancestors, 12 tribes, left Mitzrayim, left Egypt, and all went into the wilderness. Yet, from that generation, there were only 2 beings that survived. The rest were destroyed in the wilderness. The rest were destroyed in the wilderness. Why? Because of unbelief. Because of unbelief. I ask the question again, Zion. Are you prepared to endure? Are you prepared to endure unto the end? Have you counted up the cost? Do you have the understanding that no matter what, that you are going to endure, that you are not going to look back, that you are going to stay in the path of Zedekiah? Have you counted up the cost? Have you calculated the cost and made the determination if whether or not it is something that you can afford? If whether or not it is something that you can afford. And this is not predatory lending. This is not predatory lending. I'm not some predatory lender sitting at a bank trying to sell you a house, knowing, understanding that you can't afford it. I'm not a predatory lender. I am sitting here telling you and asking the question if whether or not you have calculated the cost, if whether or not you have made the determination of whether or not that this walk is something that you can afford. It's something that you can pay for in the end. This needs to be considered right now. And this question needs to be asked in the affirmative right now. And the answer needs to be in the affirmative right now, either yay or nay. Either yay, I've counted up the cost and I can afford this cost, or no, I can't afford the cost and I have indeed counted it up and I can't afford it. This question needs to be asked. This question needs to be asked. Are you prepared, Zion? Are you prepared to endure? Are you of the mindset that we are just going to go into Goshen and we're not going to be tested at all? I am of the mindset that those who have the seal of the Most High on their forehead, yes, we're going to be covered. But that does not mean we're not going to be tested. And that does not mean that some of us are not going to suffer. It does not mean that some of us are not going to suffer. Are you prepared, Zion? Are you prepared? Do you understand that what we are doing right now is just classroom work? It's just a simulator. It's just classroom work preparing us for the true test. You may be enduring something right now. You may be going through tests. You may be going through trials. But hear me, Zion. It's just classroom work. It's just a test. It's just a simulated test environment preparing you for the true test, preparing us for the true test to come. And so if you can't handle the test environment now, the simulated test now, these pop quizzes that we're giving now, you're not going to be able to handle the true test that is coming in a short while. Are you prepared? Are you prepared to endure? Have you counted up the cost? Have you counted up the cost? Are you prepared to give up your life? Are you prepared to give up family and friends? Are you prepared to give up your asha? Are you prepared to go alone if you must? Are you prepared to suffer if you must? These are relevant questions that must be asked now and must be answered in the affirmative right now. Right now, Zion, not later, but right now. The cost must be determined right now. And you must determine right now if whether or not you can afford it or whether or not you cannot afford it. Picking up this thought, we look to the 24th chapter of Matif Yahu, beginning at the fourth verse, and it reads, "And Yahusha answering said to them, Take heed that no one leads you astray, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am the Mashiach. And they shall lead many astray, and you shall begin to hear of fightings and reports of fightings. Are your eyes open? Are your ears open, Zion? See that you are not troubled, for these have to take place, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation. Are your eyes open, Zion? Are your ears open? And reign against reign. And there shall be scarcities of food." Do you see Venezuela, Zion? Do you see scarcities of food all over the earth? Are your eyes open and your ears open to Hazon, the 6th chapter, where it reads, "And a quarter or fourth of the earth's population is going to die due to war, famine, and disease, and wild beasts of the earth"? Are your eyes open and your ears attuned? "And there shall be scarcity of food and deadly diseases and earthquakes in places." Do you see it, Zion? Are your eyes open? Are your ears attuned? Are you prepared to go without food for days on end? Are you prepared to go without water for days on end? Like our ancestors were tested in the wilderness, so that Yahuwah would test them and show them that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of Yahuwah. Do you not understand, Zion, that it is Yahuwah that determines whether or not we live or die, and not food and water? Do you understand this now? Are you holding on to this truth now? Are you prepared to grasp this truth, even if you have gone without food for 21 days? Will you have the understanding that still, if I have to go without food for 40 days, for 80 days, that not until Yahuwah recalls his ruach from me, not until Yahuwah recalls his breath from me, will I die? Will I die? Because man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of Yah. It's not bread and water that sustains us, but the breath of Yah that sustains us. So even if we have to go without food for 40 days, for 80 days, not until Yah says we die, will we die. Are you prepared for this? Are you prepared? Are you prepared to undergo this test like our ancestors in the wilderness underwent this test, but they failed and they perished in the wilderness? Are you prepared to undergo this test? Because scarcity of food is coming. Famine is coming. Water's going to turn to blood. Tests are coming. Are you prepared? Are you prepared to endure? And there shall be scarcity of food and deadly diseases. A fourth of the earth is going to die due to war, famine, disease, and wild beasts of the earth, and earthquakes in places. And all these are the beginning of birth pains. Then they shall deliver you up into affliction and kill you. Are you prepared to be afflicted and be killed? And you shall be hated by all nations for my name's sake. For my name's sake. This is applicable to those who walk in the true way, who have the witness of Yahushua HaMashiach, and who guard his righteous Torah. This is us. All nations are going to hate us for his name's sake. And then many shall stumble. Many shall stumble. And they shall deliver up one another and shall hate one another. And many false Nabiim shall rise up and lead many astray. And because of the increase of lawlessness, the love of many shall become cold. Because of the increase of Torah-lessness, without Torah, the love of many shall become cold. Are your eyes opened? Are your ears attuned? Are your eyes opened? Are your ears attuned? But he who shall have endured to the end shall be delivered. But he who shall have endured unto the end shall be delivered. The question remains, Zion. Are you prepared to endure? Have you prepared your nafash? Have you prepared your labab? Have you counted up the costs? Are you prepared to endure, Zion? Is it something that you can afford? Is it? Is it something that you can afford? Is it something that you can make good on? If not, don't enter into this covenant. Do not enter into this covenant. It goes on to read, and this good news of the rain shall be proclaimed in all the world as a witness to all the nations. And then the end shall come. And this good news of the rain shall be proclaimed in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end shall come. I declare to you that the good news has not been proclaimed into all the world. He has raised up this hunk of dirt to proclaim the good news, the true good news, not the false gospel, but the true good news. I declare that the true good news has not been proclaimed into all the world, but I also declare to you that even as we speak, the good news, the Besorah, the true Besorah, is even now being proclaimed to the four corners of the Eretz. Even now it's being proclaimed to the four corners of the Eretz. Are you ready? Are you prepared to endure unto the end? So when you see the abomination that lays waste, says by Daniel the Nabi, and this has already taken place, I don't have time to address that. Set up in the set apart place. He who reads, let him understand. Then let those who are in Yehuda flee to the mountains. Let him who is on the housetop not come down to take whatever out of his house. And let him who is in the field not turn back to get his garments. And woe to those who are pregnant and to those who are nursing children in those days. And pray that your flight does not take place in winter or on the Shabbat, for then there shall be great distress. This is Jacob's distress. This is Jacob's distress. It is meant to turn the wicked, sinful hearts of Jacob from lawlessness back to Torah, from lawlessness back to Torah. It is written in the book of Yahu, commonly called Jeremiah, I believe around the 30th chapter, that out of distress, that out of Jacob's distress, Yasharal will be delivered. Do you hear me? Out of distress. Oh yes, distress is coming. Are you prepared? Are you prepared to endure? Out of distress, Yasharal, the house of Jacob, will be delivered. Out of distress. Out of distress. It reads, for then there shall be great distress, such as not been since the beginning of the world until this time. No, nor ever shall be. It's coming. Are you prepared? Are you prepared to endure? And if those days were not shortened, no flesh would be delivered. But for the sake of the chosen ones, for the sake of the house of Jacob, those days shall be shortened. If anyone then says to you, look, here's the Mashiach, or there, do not believe. For false Mashiachs and false Nabiim, what the world calls prophets, shall arise, and they shall show great signs and wonders. Oh yes, they shall work false signs and wonders, so as to lead astray, if possible, even the chosen ones. Even the chosen ones. See, I have forewarned you. So if they say to you, look, he is in the desert, do not go out. Or look, he is in the inner rooms, do not believe. For as the lightning comes from the east and shines to the west, so also shall the coming of the Son of Adam be. For wherever the dead body is, there the vultures shall be gathered together. And immediately after, post-tribulation rapture. This is not a Christian preacher proclaiming to you today. This is a servant of truth. This is a Nazarim who brings the truth of Yahuwah, not some fake pre-tribulation rapture that's not scriptural, not some fake Christian doctrine. I do not preach paganism. I proclaim the truth of Yahuwah, the very truth of Yahuwah. And it reads, immediately after the distress of those days. Immediately after the stress of those days, after Jacob's distress, that if in the days that if he had not shortened them, no flesh would remain. Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give its light, and the stars shall fall from the Shamayim, what the world falsely calls heaven. And the powers of the Shamayim shall be shaken, and then the sign of the son of Adam shall appear in the Shamayim, and then all the tribes of the earth shall mourn, and they shall see the son of Adam coming on the clouds of the Shamayim with power and with much esteem. And he shall send his messengers with a great sound of a trumpet, the last trump, the seventh trump. The last trump will sound, and those who have died in Mashiach will be raised, and they will precede us. And those of us who are alive and remain will be changed in the twinkling of an eye, and will be caught up in the air, and will join them. We will join them with the Hamashiach at the very last sound of the trump, at the last trump. No one is getting up out of here before the sound of the last trump, before the sound of the last shofar. And we would be gathered, changed in the twinkling of an eye, and there we would be with him, our Mashiach, in our land, always, always. And then the son of Adam shall appear in the Shamayim, and then all the tribes of the earth shall mourn. And they shall see the son of Adam coming on the clouds of the Shamayim with power and much esteem. And he shall send his messengers with a great sound of a shofar. And they shall gather together his chosen ones from the four winds, from one end of the Shamayim to the other. If you're of the house of Jacob, you understand that this is when we are gathered from the four winds of the Adets, from the four winds of the Adets. Not in 1948, but when we are gathered from the four winds of the Adets. So the question remains, are you prepared to suffer? Are you prepared to endure? The text declares that if these days were not shortened, no flesh would remain, either of man or beast. If these days are not going to be shortened, no flesh will remain. No flesh will remain. So I come to shock you today, Zion, with reality. With the reality that we will not leave this earth without being tested. None of us are going to leave this earth without being tested, without suffering. The question is, have you counted up the cost, and are you prepared to suffer? Are you prepared to suffer? It often perplexes me that some think they're going to get out of here without suffering, when indeed our Hamashiach hung on the stake for 6 hours. He suffered for 6 hours. He didn't complain, didn't yell out, didn't make a noise. Why? Because he came as a Yahudim, And Yahudim have been commanded to be manly. We have been commanded to not fear. We have been commanded that even if we must die as men. We must die manly without fear. In the same way, our Hamashiach, in the same way he perished, we must also be prepared to perish if need be. If need be. Many of you, if you have not read the book of Maccabees, I recommend that you read it. I recommend that you read all 4 of them. I recommend that you read Maccabeim, the book of Maccabees. We are Yahudim. We are Yasharal. We are sons of Jacob. And we have been commanded to not fear. And even if we must die as men. We must die manly, as our Hamashiach did, as he suffered. So what makes some of us think that we're going to get out of here without suffering when he suffered? When he suffered. Indeed, Shaul declares that if any desires to follow the Hamashiach, then he will suffer persecution. He will suffer affliction. You will suffer. You will suffer. Are you prepared? Are you prepared to suffer? Are you prepared to suffer like the ambassador Andrew, who it is written was executed on an X-shaped stake? On an X-shaped stake, in which he hung for 3 days. For 3 days and 3 nights, he hung on that X-shaped stake. And for 3 days, he proclaimed the Besorah to everyone that passed by him, even though he hung on an X-shaped stake, suffering and proclaiming the Besorah to everyone that passed by him. Are you prepared to suffer like the ambassador Bartholomew, who it is written was flayed alive, he was skinned alive, and then hung and nailed to a stake? Are you prepared to suffer like him? Have you counted up the cost? Have you counted up the cost? Are you prepared to suffer like our ancestors during the Maccabean period, that rather than eat swine's flesh, they would rather have their limbs cut off. They would rather have their skin ripped from their bodies. They would rather be thrown into a fire alive rather than transgress the Torah of the Most High Yah. Have you counted up the cost, Zion? It's coming a time when there will be no more games, when there will be no more classroom exercises, when there will be no more simulated tests, but a real test. Have you counted up the cost? And are you prepared to endure? Are you prepared to endure like a son of Jacob, full of courage, full of manlyhood, willing to fight and die if need be? Are you prepared to suffer like Yahuchanan, who it is written was boiled in hot oil? Are you prepared to suffer like Kafar, commonly called Peter? Are you prepared to suffer like Kafar, who it is written at one time denied the Hamashiach 3 times before the rooster crowed, but never again did he deny the Hamashiach? It is written that before Kafar was nailed to the stake, that he was placed in the infamous Roman prison, Mamertine, the infamous Mamertine prison in Rome. This place was infamous It was infamous. It was a dark, decrepit, nasty, filthy place where it is written that there was one way in and one way out of this place. In order to get in, they would roll a stone from the top of this place, and then they would lower the prisoners down, and there they would be left to die, starvation and degradation and filth and disease. They would be left to die. It is written that many of the prisoners died from the poisonous fumes emitting from dead, decomposing bodies and human excrement and waste, that many died from this alone. From this alone. Yet it is written that Kafar was lured down into this place, and he was chained in this place for 9 months. For 9 months, Kafar was chained in this place, such that he could neither sit down nor lie down. And in this position, it is written that Kafar proclaimed the Besorah for 9 months, full of the Ruach HaKodesh of the Most High. He proclaimed the Besorah for 9 months in this position, and it is written that over 40 beings were delivered because Kafar preached the Besorah, even though he was chained in this infamous Palmarmatine prison, in a position to where he could neither lie down or sit down for 9 months, full of the Ruach HaKodesh. He proclaimed the Besorah of the Most High. Are you prepared to endure like Kafar? Are you prepared to endure? Are you prepared to endure like Shaul, who also spent time in the Malmatine prison? He was under house arrest for a while, but then he was moved from there to the Malmatine prison himself before he was beheaded. Are you prepared to endure like Shaul, who declares that he suffered many hungry nights? He suffered famine. He was disfigured due to disease and bodily affliction. He had some kind of disease. He was afflicted. Oh yes, this was that thorn in his flesh. It was a disease, an affliction of his body. He was diseased. He was weak. He was disfigured. He suffered hunger. He suffered thirst. He suffered weakness. He suffered many lonely nights. He suffered stonings. He suffered beatings. He suffered attacks from wild animals. Are you prepared to endure even as Shaul endured? Are you prepared to endure for the sake of the Besorah? Even if Shaul endured, are you prepared to endure like Yashayahu, who it is written was sown in two with a wooden saw? And it is written that as he was being sown in two, that he went into a trance in a rock, and he gazed upon the Shamayim, and it is written that he did not make a sound or a whimper as he was being sown into with a wooden saw. Are you prepared to endure like a Yashayahu? Are you full of the Ruach HaKodesh? Because I declare that unless you are full of the Ruach HaKodesh, you will not be able to endure like our fathers. You will not be able to endure like our fathers. So I declare that in this message, in this question of are you prepared to endure, the next question is, have you received the immersion of the Ruach HaKodesh? Because without him, you will not be able to endure. Our Hamashiach, being fully man and fully Alua, he could only endure the stake for 6 hours and endure it like a man because he was full of the Ruach HaKodesh. The Ruach HaKodesh. Are you prepared, Zion, to endure like Eliyahu, who is commonly called Elijah, who thought that he was alone, that cried out to Yahuwah that I am alone, that all of your Nabi have been slain by the sword, because he thought that that witch, Isabel, who is still spewing incantation across the Eretz, who is still spewing witchcraft across the earths, and who is still persecuting the Nabi of the Most High, and who is still persecuting the Kodashim, the called out ones of the Most High, who is still persecuting the Nasarim of the Most High. Yah, are you prepared to endure like Eliyahu, who thought that all the Nabi had been slain by this witch Isabel, and thought that he was alone, and who fled to the mountain of Yah, to Mount Sinai, also called Horeb, when Yah had to remind him that he had preserved a remnant of 7,000. But are you prepared? Are you prepared to endure? Are you prepared to endure? Don't think that we are special, that we are somehow going to escape a time of testing. The time of testing is for us. It's named after us. It's called Jacob's distress. It is for us to purge all of that wickedness out of us, all of that lawlessness out of us, all of that leaving out of us. It is written that he is going to draw us into the wilderness, where he's going to enter into judgment with us, and where he is going to purge the rebels out of our midst. Jacob's distress is for us. And I declare that some of us are going to suffer, and some of us are going to die. Does that mean that he does not love us because we suffer and that we die? And see, this is what you need to understand, and this is what you need to take hold of. No, it does not. He suffered. He created a body for himself, and he suffered for us. So what makes us think that we will not have to suffer? And what makes us think that if we suffer, that he does not love us? He suffered and he loved us. He suffered and he loved us. See, we need to get rid of that Christian mindset. We need to get rid of that Christian mindset. You see, Yahuwah does not look at us in the same way that he looks at the world. He does not look at us the same way. You see, with the world, he will allow their sins to stack up to Shamayim until their sins stack up to Shamayim, so that they receive the full length of the judgment, so that they receive the full arm of judgment. But for us, he would take us out first, so that we do not have to receive the full arm of his judgment. He loves us like that. He will allow us to suffer, to purge that wickedness from us, and allow us to die, so that we do not receive as harsh a judgment as the nations. As the nations. Why do you think Torah was given? The punishments of Torah, Zion. You see, he don't care about this. This here, it rots. It melts, it rots, and it attracts worms and flies, and it goes away. He don't care about this dirt. He cares about that inner man. He wants to save the inner man, so that he does not perish. Hence, if one was caught in adultery by the mouth of two or more witnesses, he and she was stoned without compassion to death, so that the wickedness was met right then, and so that their sins did not stack up to Shamayim, so that they did not receive as harsh a judgment. They were judged right then. Their judgment came then, right then. It is written through a letter in Corinthians that Yahuwah, he judges us right now. He judges us right now. So if that means we have to suffer now and die now, so that we do not have to receive a stricter judgment, then so be it. Then so be it. He doesn't treat us like he treats the nations. We are treated differently. He takes us out right now, rather than allow our sins to stack up to Shamayim. So if we have to endure and we have to suffer in this next season, bear this in mind, that he doesn't treat us like he treats the nations. We're different. We're different. A witness to this comes from 2 Maccabees, Maccabeim, 2 Maccabeim, the 6th chapter, verse 12 through 16. It reads, I beseech therefore those that read this book, that they not be discouraged because of the calamities, but account that these punishments were not for the destruction, but for the chastisement of our race. For indeed, those who act wickedly are not left alone for long, but are quickly met with retribution. Is a sign of great kindness. For in the case of the other nations, the sovereign master waits patiently until he punishes them when they have reached the full measure of their sins. But not so when he judges us, that he may not take vengeance on us afterwards, when we reach the height of our sins. Wherefore he never withdraws his compassion from us. But though he chastises us with calamity, yet he does not forsake his own people. We see an example of this in the book of Corinthians, when Shaul addresses the man who was caught sleeping with his father's wife, living with his father's wife, uncovering his father's nakedness. We understand by the Torah that this is a penalty worthy of death, that by the mouth of 2 or more witnesses, that they are to be stoned without compassion. And this is a penalty worthy of death, but because he was addressing a diaspora who was no longer living in Yasharal, who was no longer living in Jerusalem, and thus subject to the sovereign laws of the nation of which they were held captive, and no longer being able to enforce the sovereign law of Torah, which was given to the sovereign nation of Yasharal to enforce. He gave them the instruction to put this man away from them, to eject him, to reject him from amongst them, kick him out of the assembly, to listen, to turn him over to Hashatan for destruction of his flesh, for destruction of his flesh. Why? The word declares, this letter declares, so that his inner man, so that his being may be delivered, so that his being may be delivered. Turn him over for destruction, for death. Turn him over so that Hashatan can kill him, so that he is judged right now, so that his being may be delivered, so that his being may be delivered. If you are a son of Jacob, he does not judge us in the same way. We are judged differently. We are judged right now. He doesn't see us the same way as he sees the nations, whom he allows their sins to stack up to Shamayim. So do not think that you are not going to suffer. And do not think that just because you suffer, that he does not love you. On the contrary, if you suffer, if he chastises us, as a father chastises his children, this indeed shows that he loves us. As it is written in Romans, the 8th chapter, verse 33 through 39, who will bring a charge against YAHUAH'S elect? YAHUAH is the one who justifies. Who is the one who condemns? Mashiach Yahusha is he who died, yes, rather than who was raised, who is at the right hand of YAHUAH, who also intercedes for us. Who will separate us from the love of Mashiach? Who will separate us from the love of Mashiach? Will tribulation, or distress, or persecution, or famine, or nakedness, or peril, or sword? Just as it is written, for your sake we are being put to death all day long. We were considered as sheep to be slaughtered. But in all these things we are overwhelmingly conquered. We overwhelmingly conquer through him who loved us. For I am convinced that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor messengers, nor principalities, nor things present, nor things to come, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor any other created thing will be able to separate us from the love of Yahuwah, which is in Mashiach Yahusha, our master, which is in Mashiach, Yahusha, our master. Do not think that you are not going to get out of here without suffering peril, sword, famine. Do not think you're going to get out of here without suffering. But remember that we suffer not because he doesn't love us, but because he loves us. Bury this deep into your nefesh and into your labab. And in burying it, count up the cost and decide if it's something that you can afford. And ask the question. Are you ready to endure? Are you prepared to endure? And then answer that question in the affirmative right now, because an affirmative answer is needed right now. It is written in the apocryphal book of 2 Esdras, 16th chapter, verse 14 through 35. And then skipping down to verse 40 through 41, we understand what is coming upon the earth, what is going to try the whole earth, even the Kodashim, even the set-apart ones, that is going to try the whole earth. And this is reminiscent of the warning spoken through the mouth of the Hamashiach in the 24th chapter of Matif Yahu, when he declared that if those days were not shortened, no flesh would remain. That if those days were not shortened, no flesh would remain. Reading this warning from Esdras, this adds clarity and it expounds upon what the Hamashiach spoke about in terms of if those days are not shortened, that no flesh is going to remain. Beginning at verse 14, the 2nd chapter of Esdras, the 16th chapter, 2 Esdras, the 16th chapter, beginning at verse 14, it reads, Behold, the plagues are sent and shall not return again until they come upon the earth. Oh yes, the plagues are coming. Those plagues of Mitzrayim, they're coming once again. There's nothing new under the sun. The plagues of Mitzrayim are coming again. There's going to be a second Passover, a second Exodus. Pharaoh is going to let his people go again. There is nothing new under the sun. He's going to bring us into the wilderness once again. And there he's going to enter into judgment with us. And there he's going to separate the rebels from us. And many, Zion, many are going to perish in the wilderness. Verse 15, the fire is kindled and shall not be put out till it consume the foundation of the earth. Like as an arrow which is shot of a mighty archer returneth not backward, even so the plagues that shall be sent upon the earth shall not return again. Woe is me, woe is me. Who will deliver me in those days? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars. The power shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for the amendment. But for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. Behold, victuals shall be so cheap upon the earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case. And even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. Indeed, we're in a season of great confusion. Great confusion. Where men don't know if whether or not he's a man or a woman. Or a woman doesn't know if whether or not she's a woman or a man. We're living in a season of the feminist movement, where women are declaring that they need no man. Where indeed women full of Isabel Ruachs are even trying to govern their household, to rule their men, to operate as men. Indeed, we're living in a season where good is called evil and evil is called good. Indeed, we're living in a season of great confusion. of great confusion. Verse 22, for many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine. Are your eyes open? Are your ears attuned? And the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. And the dead shall be cast out as dung, and the dead shall be cast out as dung. And there shall be no man to comfort them. For the earth shall be wasted, and the cities shall be cast down. There shall be no man left to till the earth and sow it. The trees shall give fruit. Who shall gather them? The grapes shall ripen, and who shall tread them? For all places shall be desolate of men, so that one man shall desire to see another, and to hear his voice. So that one man shall desire to see another, and to hear his voice. Indeed, Zion, if you're suffering loneliness now, if you're feeling alone because you're walking the true way, the true path of Zedekiah, the narrow path where not many are walking. You may not be near an assembly. You may not be near an assembly of believers, and you feel as though you're a man on an island alone, or a woman on an island alone. Indeed, this is classroom work. Indeed, this is classroom work. Because indeed, again, it reads in verse 27, so that one man shall desire to see another, and to hear his voice, and to hear his voice. For of a city there shall be 10 left, and 2 of the field, which shall hide themselves in the thick groves, and in the clefts of rocks. As in an orchard of olives, upon every tree there are left 3 or 4 olives. Or as when a vineyard is gathered, there are left some clusters of them that diligently seek through the vineyard. Even so, in those days there should be 3 or 4 left by them that search their houses with the sword. And the earth shall be laid waste, and the fields thereof shall wax old. And their ways and all their paths shall grow full of thorns, because no man shall travel therethrough. The virgins shall mourn, having no bridegrooms. The women shall mourn, having no husbands. Their daughters shall mourn, having no helpers. And in the war shall their bridegrooms be destroyed, and their husbands shall perish of famine. Hear now these things, understand them, ye servants of Yahuwah. Hear now these things, and understand them, ye servants of Yahuwah. I declare again that you may feel alone, that you may feel like a man alone or a woman alone on an island. But I declare to you on this Yom that this is merely classroom work, that this is merely classroom work, preparing you for a season to come, where many are not going to be left, where there are not going to be many left. So I declare to continue to endure, continue to endure the classroom work, with the understanding that it's only classroom work that is preparing you for a major test to come, preparing us for a major test to come. Verse 40, it reads, O my people, hear my word. Make you ready to the battle. Make you ready to the battle. These words are being proclaimed to you. Make you ready to the battle. And in those evils be even as pilgrims, be even as wanderers upon the earth. He that selleth, let him be as he that fleeth away, and he that buyeth as one that will lose. And he that buyeth, whatever you're buying, whatever you're storing up, your houses, your cars, or whatever you're storing up, and he that buyeth as one that will lose. The lands that you're buying, building Hebrew set-apart communities, away from society, away from Babylon, and he that buyeth as one that will lose. All the silver and gold that you're storing up, all the guns and ammunition that you're storing up, all the food and provisions and water that you're storing up. And he that buyeth as one that will lose, as one that will lose. Are you prepared, Zion, to endure? Have you counted up the cost? Is it something that you can afford? Is it something that you can afford? Have you looked at your budget? Is it a payment that you can afford to make? Are you prepared to endure? To those of you who are prepared to endure, and to those of you who are enduring classroom tests right now, in a classroom environment, an assimilated environment, preparing you for this season to come, do not let go of the plow. Do not let go of the plow. Do not turn to the right or to the left. Stay in the path of righteousness. Stay in the path of righteousness. Pray to our Abba to keep us in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. So that through us, so that in staying in the path of righteousness and by never letting go of the plow and by laying on the potter's wheel, that even now in this season, in this classroom work, that he is preparing us to fulfill the purpose that has been spoken over us before the foundation of the YAHUAH'S and the Shamayim. And that is to be fruit-bearing trees during a time of famine to come. That is to be water-producing rocks during the time of drought to come. That is to be light-producing lamps during a time of darkness to come. That is to be prepared to receive YAHUAH, such that through us, Zion, Yahuwah will turn the hearts of the fathers back to the children and the hearts of the children back to the fathers, so that through us, Zion, he will turn the hearts of the fathers back to the children and the hearts of the children back to the fathers, lest he come with destruction, lest he come and destroy the earth with utter destruction. You see, this is our place. This is what we were born to do. We were born for such a season as this. We were born for such a time as this. We were prepared before the foundation of the YAHUAH'S and Shamayim for this particular season to be fruit-bearing trees during a time of famine and water-producing rocks during a time of drought and light-producing lamps during a time of darkness. We have been born for such a time as this to receive Ruach Aliyahu, to prepare the way of the Hamashiach. He always sends Ruach Aliyahu to prepare the way of the Hamashiach. And it will be no different in this season for which we have been born, for which we have been created to operate in. We have been born for such a time as this. We have been born for such a time as this. Are you prepared to endure? Are you prepared to endure? Are you prepared to walk in your purpose? Are you prepared to suffer? Are you prepared to endure? Have you counted up the cost? I remind you once again that we are Abrim. We are Abrim. We are the seed of Abraham and Yishak and Jacob. We are Abrim, and we have been commanded to not to fear. We have been commanded to not fear because we are Abrim. We don't fear death. We don't fear affliction. We don't fear persecution. We don't fear man. We are Abrim. We are the sons of Jacob. We are the sons of Jacob, and we have been commanded to not fear. Are you prepared? to endure? Are you prepared to endure? Are you prepared? Are you prepared? Have you been immersed in the true name, the true Sham of our Hamashiach? Have you been immersed in his true name, not the pagan baptismal of going backwards and being immersed in being brought into mysticism? But have you undergone the mikbah tabala, the dipping, the up and down dipping in the name, the set apart Sham of Hamashiach Yahusha, whereby dying and being buried, symbolic of dying and being buried with Hamashiach, whereby having the penalty of the transgression of Torah, which is death, paid in us through him, dying and being resurrected to the newness of life, where no hands touch you. No hands touch you, as is the tradition of our people, where no hands touch you as the hands of the child that is born. The first hands to touch him are the hands of the Father. And thus, when we come up from the Mikbah Tabbalah, the first hands to touch you are the hands of our Abinu Yahuwah. Have you undergone the mikbah tabbalah, whereby you have been washed from your leprosy, washed from your running sores, washed from your menstrual cycle, washed from touching the dead things of Babylon, and whereby now you have been invited back into the camp of Yasharal? Have you been washed from your filth? Have you been washed from your filth? Have you received the immersion of the Ruach HaKodesh, whereby although you are a bastard, when you receive the Ruach of the Most High, it negates your bastard status, and whereby you were born from above, from the loins of the Most High Yah. It negates your bastard status, born from above, whereby you receive power, whereby your heart is circumcised, whereby the Torah of the Most High is written upon your heart, whereby giving you a love for Torah and a willingness to obey it, whereby giving you courage and strength to endure unto the end, whereby giving you courage and strength to walk as an Abrim, as a son of the Most High Yah. As a son of the Most High Yah. Are your garments clean? Are your garments spotless? Are you keeping your cookies undefiled? Are you remaining a virgin for your one ash, and not being defiled by other husbands, and not having the blood of your virginity spilled upon your garments, so that when we are gathered and when you enter into the wedding chamber, he discovers that you are not a virgin, thus bringing guilt upon your father's house and shame upon Yasharal, thus being cast out of the city and being stoned and being destroyed. Are your garments spotless? Are your garments clean? Are you remaining a virgin for your one husband? Are you remaining obedient to your one husband and not bowing down to pagan deities and pagan mighty ones and not giving up your cookies to other husbands? Are you remaining faithful to your one husband? Are your garments spotless? Are your garments clean? Are you prepared to receive your husband? Are you prepared to receive him? Will he be prepared to receive you? Will he be prepared to receive you. All of these things need to be taken into account with respect to enduring unto the end, with respect to enduring until the end. Are you ready? Are you ready? Once again, Zion, I am a proclaimer. I am a proclaimer. This is what he's called me to do. And he has proclaimed to you on this Yom. Are you prepared? Are you prepared? This question needs to be answered now in the affirmative, rather than later. Yahuwah barak you and guard you. Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and show favor to you. Yahuwah lift up his face towards you and give you shalom. Thus you shall put my name on the banim of Yasharal, and I myself shall barak them. Amen. Amen.